But I want to say thank you all for coming out. This has been a few months in the making. It's been a great opportunity to work with Tonya. I want to thank Isabel, Barry Hudson, and several others who've been very instrumental. Jackie Woody for putting where's Isabel? Isabel in the back put this thing together. Thank you from our end. She's under 20, right? I think she's under 20, sir. Check her work permit just to make sure she's able to work over hours. But with that, I have a few things I want to do is make sure we do some introductions. We have several people here from the county executive staff, several senior members. I want to make sure we recognize them. Senior members. No, senior members of your cabinet, sir. Senior members of your cabinet. But with that,
Kristen Rose, our former employee.
Thank you, sir. I haven't been here long enough to retire yet. I think I'm vested. With that, I want to make sure I do some introductions. We have several Deputy Chief Administrative Officers. Before I do that, I don't see Glenda Wilson, our Chief of Staff, the County Executive Chief of Staff. I know she's around. We also have Brad Seaman, who isn't here, but I know sends his regards and greetings. He's our Chief Administrative Officer for the county. Those are our top two our staff people who help run the government with Mr. Baker. In addition, we have several other Deputy Chief Administrative Officers. I want to make sure I recognize them. I see Ms. Betty Hager-Francis, the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Health, Human Services, and Education, my boss. Make sure I say hello to her. I had to start with her. Her name is... Actually, Carla Reed is before hers, but I had to say Ms. Francis first. Carla Reed, the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Economic Development and Public Infrastructure. We have Mr. Barry Stanton, one of the coolest DCAOs in the office. He's on PGC all the time, KYS. Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Public Safety. We also have several other members. I don't see Tom Himmler, but he's the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Budget, Finance, and Administration. He's the guy that says no a lot. In addition to that, I think we have, I saw Bradley Fromm is Deputy Chief of Staff for the office. I know he's probably running around for a meeting or something like that. We also have Director of Social Services here, who's also a board member of the Innovation Fund, Ms. Gloria Brown. And then we have a host of my colleagues that I'm probably going to miss you, so I'm going to ask you to wave. The county executive staff who are here as members, and I think Mr. Scott Peterson, who was also a class of 2013. If I'm correct, right, Scott? You and I were in the same class together. I didn't see you often at the meetings, but it's all right. I was working. Sounds good. So with that, we want to say thank you, and we also want to make sure we recognize the Executive Director of the Social Innovation Fund, Ms. Tonya Wellens, for her outstanding work. Tonya and I have been talking about this for a long time. We've met multiple times. She comes to every meeting to make sure to remind me to make sure we get this done. So thank you so much for your vision for pushing, I think, this concept of having people in the county that I think if we look around, we don't see each other often because often many of us work outside of the county. We work in this district. I've been blessed to work here at administration, but there's a lot of talent in Prince George's County, and I think we're all amazed, at least I am, as I read the bios and talk to you individually and got a chance to know you of the amazing work that's being done in and outside of the county. And my hope is that tonight would be a springboard for opportunities to work, for you all to work in the county with us to help us make it better. With that, I see Ms. Glenda Wilson. I hate to put her on the spot, but the Chief of Staff, just saying hello, introducing you formally. Ms. Glenda Wilson, Chief of Staff. But with that, I'll introduce Tonya Wellens, and I'll come back up and give a briefer explanation of Mr. Baker. Tonya Wellens.
Good evening, everyone. This is actually a lot more fun and jovial than I expected it to be, so I'm excited about that. I'd like to also start by welcoming and acknowledging 40 Under 40, both cohorts, 2012 and 2013. I think this is the first time that I've had this many of both cohorts in the same venue at the same time. So this is a huge accomplishment. Thank you all for coming and being recognized again. I'd like to recognize quickly my advisory board. There's Gloria Brown, who's also who works for the county. There's Lionel Moore. Where did Lionel go? Lionel Moore with Prince George's County Courts, Family Courts Director. Maya is here. Mark is here. Chris, and who am I missing? Christian, of course. I did what I'm hoping to do for the rest of the nonprofit sector in the county is I looked at the bios and saw all of the wonderful things that people in the county were doing and thought through, okay, who's going to make sort of the best collective effort to strengthen the board and the work that the Innovation Fund is set out to do. And I think I did a pretty good job. We've expanded our board from 4 advisory members to, and Travis, I forgot to mention Travis Green in the back, yes. From 4 members a year ago to 9 members now, and I'm quite excited about the team that we have assembled for this work. I'll acknowledge the county executive and his team. Thank you for having us. Thank you, Barry, Christian, Scott, Jackie, and Isabel, of course. Where is Isabel? She stepped out. Thank you for having us and making this event possible. You know, PGCSIF is an apolitical organization, but we have perspective and we have lots of opinions based on our demographic reach and our interests and the things that we think are going to make this county move from point A to point B, from point B to point A. And I think we would be remiss if we did not applaud the outstanding work that the county executive and his team are doing on our behalf. So.
I did it all. Thank you.
So most of you know that I started the Innovation Fund a little over 2 years ago. I knew that I wanted to make a contribution to the county and hadn't quite figured out how best to do that. So I was on a leadership retreat in Tbilisi, Georgia, and some of you have heard my story before. I've got to get in the habit of telling this story over and over again. And it was interesting because it was during that time, it was October, November 2010. But while I was in Tbilisi, the story about the Jacksons, the Johnsons broke. So the scandal, the story broke, and we were there. And it became the topic of conversation for 3 days. And, you know, there aren't many people from Prince George's County who work at the World Bank Group. So I became sort of the resident spokesperson for the county while we were on this leadership retreat. You know, what's happening there? Why is there so many challenges? Why isn't there growth? And why is there corruption? And, you know, it was interesting because we were leaders of one of the most powerful development banks in the entire country, where our work is towards building the capacity of local government leaders primarily, and business leaders in developing and transitional places. But some of the most egregious crimes that could happen in a municipality were happening right here at home. And so it was while I was there that I wrote the concept note for the Innovation Fund. And then a few months later, launched the fund officially and launched the 40 Under 40 initiative as our flagship and first initiative. And I am incredibly proud of the result of that work, of building this network of talented professionals who live in the county, who are doing incredible things, but hadn't yet received the hometown acknowledgement that I think they all so well deserved. So we acknowledge you again. So the initial notion behind the Innovation Fund remains relevant today. It's to build social capital and invest in new ways of solving old challenges in Prince George's County. This notion of social capital is an old one with a new name. It's about community engagement. It's civic participation, or Civics 101 as Jamal Miller likes to refer to it as. I don't think Jamal's here yet. It's place-based development. It really refers to how institutions and individuals shape culture and norms for improved quality of life. And it's relevant particularly for this demographic, the 25 to 45 demographic, and I keep pushing the age up because eventually you'll age out of the under 40, and we want to make sure that you remain inclusive. But it's relevant because this demographic now represents the second largest demographic in the county. And someone told me, I think maybe it was you, Scott, that maybe it's pushing close to the first largest demographic in the county, if not already. So this audience is interesting because this audience has options on where they live, how they live, whether they send their children to public schools or private schools, whether they incorporate their businesses in Prince George's County or go somewhere else in the region, in the country, or in the world, quite frankly. This audience has options, and right now they're choosing Prince George's County. And with choosing Prince George's County, we have to look for new ways of solving old challenges, and I think quickly is the operative word. I place emphasis on quickly because there isn't much interest in waiting 10 to 15 years for change to come. And with the speed with which the county executive moved on the CEO of schools, we know he understands quickly. That was supposed to be a joke, kind of. Laugh with me, make it light, please.
I got it.
Thank you. So based on strategic interactions with this audience over the last several months, a number of topics have emerged as priority. There is a strong interest in building the arts and artists as entrepreneurial culture with a clear focus on hiring local. The hire local notion extends beyond arts and into business. We had a call a couple of weeks ago with the business members of this cohort, and they're really curious about how they can get in on the business deals that are happening in the county. They noted that 20 years ago, businesses in D.C., small businesses in D.C., have now grown to become very big businesses and doing big business in the city now or in the country now, because of the residency preferences. We want our public schools to be schools of choice, which means finding the right leader, of course, but also looking for success stories and successful leaders inside the system and replicating and building upon their successes. Noting the incredible parks system, we would like to see a stronger emphasis on healthy living in Prince George's County. And our dear colleague Dana Smith of Spiritual Essence Yoga helped us to make the link between the outward commute for work and our public health challenges, like stress, like domestic violence, like obesity, and like the lack of parental engagement in education. And perhaps it's not just that people are apathetic and don't care, but commuting can be exhausting, and particularly when the statistics that 50% of families in the county are headed by single-family households. Part of our research uncovered that Prince George's County has more dialysis centers per capita than anywhere else in the county. And this strikes a particular chord for me because on June 12th, today, just 1 year ago, my father and I had a successful kidney transplant surgery. And so we're celebrating our 1-year anniversary today. And while we're happy that we've made it successfully in the last year, it doesn't negate the fact that poor health practices coupled with genetics led us to this point. I talk to my dad about it often. Just a reminder, no Father's Day gifts anymore. I'm done. A permanent one. So yes, we have the basic infrastructure in the county. We have good roads, we have functioning schools, we have some options for employment. We now have good governance, a growing and stronger nonprofit sector. But we are ready to move from good to great. We want to minimize our downside challenges and scale the upside possibilities quickly. Again, as it relates to this audience, I think the ask is really, how can we create an environment where we live, work, and play in Prince George's County? And based on my engagement with this group, they're keen to become partners with the county and others to this very end. So thank you again for having us, Mr. Baker. Thank you all for engaging this group, and we just look forward to having a fruitful exchange about how we can actively engage with you and your vision for Prince George's County.
The last 6 or so months, I've been working pretty close with Mr. Baker along with our team here on education, and I will say that I've never seen someone as determined. Is probably the best word. Determined to do something. We were in a meeting and there was a conversation the gentleman said, and he said, you know what, the most important thing you can do is affect the lives of students. And I looked at Mr. Baker and he said, and I have 125,000 of them. And I think for me, at least, as a person who has the opportunity to work with you every single day, and not just as my boss, but as someone I do look up to, and I think you have done an amazing job of turning the paradigm of Prince George's County quickly. The opportunity to live out his vision and push his vision, and sometimes push people out of the way for his vision, has been very, very rewarding. And he has a nickname for me, Southeast Jerome, and I earned that nickname during this legislative fight. So with that, I want to introduce Mr. County Executive Rashawn L. Baker III.
To show you how well this government is really run, what's the format? What's going to happen after I say a few things?
We'll take pictures.
We'll take pictures?
And then you'll sit on the stool and take questions.
They're going to ask me questions?
Yes.
Oh. So I just say, we have a great government in Prince George's County. I actually do all the work myself. No, let me say this. One, I want to thank you. Let's give you another round of time for this. It's interesting. We were talking in the back before I came out about, they actually asked me, had I been part of any groups when I was under 40? As if, I didn't do anything before I had this job. And I, surprisingly as it is, I actually, I told them at one time I was a rising star. My kids remind me that I didn't quite make it. But in Annapolis, I was fortunate to be selected to go on a number of leadership, groups and conferences. And one of the ones was this group that's now gone out. It's the Fleming Fellows. And the idea of the Fleming Fellows, if you're old enough to remember it, which most of you aren't, was that you would bring leaders from around, young legislators from around the country, and 4 times a year, and you would go to various places. And the idea was you were going to build this cohort of the future leaders. They were state legislators now, but they would be governors and county executives and mayors, but they get a chance to know each other. And it was both Republican and Democrat. And the idea is just you would have these really dynamic folks. And so I got a chance to, I think they had very few people they could choose from in Annapolis who were under 40. And I just happened to be in that age group, and I got a chance to go and to meet these people. And we talked about the various challenges and issues that we had, whether you were in Hawaii or Denver or Georgia, Mississippi, or Maryland, and share these concepts. And this is much like what you're trying to do right here at home, that we build a connection. We don't know what that will be 10 years from now, but smart people should know each other. And that's something that, I learned. And it's something that stayed with me. A good friend of mine, artist Hampshire Cowan, said that to me when we started. She said, I wanted to get you together with the guy who's now the mayor of Atlanta, Kasim Reed. We didn't know each other. He was in the legislature in Georgia, and I was up here. And I said, well, why? I have relatives in Georgia that might be able to vote for it, but, I don't really see the connection. She said, smart people should know each other, because you don't know what it would be. And who knew that he would be mayor and I would be county executive? Who knew that when I took this job, given all the issues that were facing us in Prince George's County, I too happened to be in Georgia at the same time when the Johnsons were arrested. But I was in Georgia because when we took over, given the issues that were going on in Prince George's County, good friend of mine Wayne Curry had introduced me to the deputy secretary at HUD because we were having problems in Prince George's County in housing and community development. And in meeting with the deputy secretary, he said, you really got to get your hands around that issue. And he said, you should visit some people who have done it right, who were in similar situations. And he threw out a list of places to go. Cleveland was doing some good stuff, and I think San Francisco. And then he said, there's a dynamic young mayor of Atlanta who came in the same situation you are in. If you don't know him, you should get to know him and go visit and find out what he's doing around housing, and his name is Kasim Reed. I said, I know him. And I called up Kasim, and I said, this is before I was actually county executive-elect. I said, could I come down there and visit you and talk to you and bring some of my staff folks so we can figure out what we should be doing on this end to turn around what was going on at HUD. No one knew that 10 years ago when artists first said we should sit down at a dinner at Howard University and just get to know each other. So part of what the dynamic of this group is, bright, young, successful people in Prince George's County getting to know each other. The future leadership of Prince George's County, the state of Maryland, and the Washington region getting to know each other. The future leadership and the current leadership of Prince George's County that's under 40, talking about what we should be doing to make your government, to make the place where you live, where you shop, better. Having a voice right now. That was what I learned when I took those classes, leadership classes in Annapolis. That's what Artist Cowan was trying to teach me, and that's what this is about. So we in this government I want to thank you for recognizing a number of the folks that we have in our government that are under 40. Makes me feel really old because I remember when some of them, like Courtney, were in high school and doing great things. But this is really what this is about, and we're pleased to be a part of it. With that, I should probably answer some questions. The focus of the administration has been on what we call our Transforming Neighborhoods Initiative. And that's 6 areas in Prince George's County where all of the indicators, the negative indicators, were going up. But they're the 6 areas that are the problem areas for Prince George's County that we haven't really significantly paid attention to. And so our Transforming Neighborhoods Initiative is to bring the government into those areas and to bear on the problems, so that when people come to us and they say, hey, I want to play a role in making Prince George's County better. And we say, great. If you're in one of these 6 areas or you serve the population in one of these 6 areas, then that's going to be our first priority. George's County better. It really is focusing on those 6 areas. So in your capacities and your skill and judgment, those are the areas that we want you to look at and see how you can help us turn around. Because just think about it. If we turn around those 6 areas, which also happen to be, and I am going to stand up, which also happens to be the areas that have the greatest potential in Prince George's County for growth and development. If you look at each one of those 6 areas on a map, they're right next to a metro center. So when we talk about the arts, when we talk about business development, when we talk about opportunities to grow here, that's where it's going to happen. When you talk about young people like yourselves, and we try to find a way to get you to move to move out of D.C. into Prince George's County, or don't go to Baltimore City and come here, those are the areas we're going to be able to redevelop and have us the greatest opportunity to attract you here. Because the things that my wife wanted in the district were not here in Prince George's County. That's why she had to be near the things she was accustomed to. Whether it was restaurants, whether it was shop, whether it was the mall downtown. We can do all that in Prince George's County in those areas. And this is how I'll close it. We have the greatest potential for growth in the Washington region in Prince George's County. It's going to happen. The question is how it happens. Because for too long, we're the only undeveloped, untapped resources here. People now, because of the economy, are moving back toward Washington, D.C., because the federal government is the only place you can legally print money. You can illegally print it elsewhere. And it is what, I give him credit every time I say this because he was right. It is what my good friend Wayne Curry called Rome. All roads lead to Rome. All roads lead to Washington, D.C. The undeveloped road is Prince George's County. And so if we do those things in those areas, opportunities for youth involvement are going to take place around those areas because that's where the greatest need. Opportunities to see high-tech grow is going to take place in those areas because that's where the greatest need is. And that's where we're going to put our resources. An excellent question, and it's is one that we're trying to address in the county. We renamed our minority business office to Supplier Diversity and Development. I think it's what it's called. Did I get it right? Oh, terrific. I'm starting to know this government after 3 years. But the reason we changed the name of the minority business office to Supplier Diversity was minority business was about making sure that you were certified if you were a woman-owned or minority-owned business. But it wasn't about how you actually got work. One of the things when I ran a nonprofit, which was a small business, or I ran my law firm, which was a small business, was, I knew how to fill out the form. What I didn't have was resources, I didn't have capital, and I certainly didn't have great credit because I was new. Nobody lends to you when you're new because they don't know if you're going to be around. So our struggle and what we've asked Roland Jones to do over there is to look at how we can address those issues. We also asked Monica Johnson in our central services to look at how we're actually bidding out contracts and how we can actually package that so we give greater opportunity. And we asked both of them to look at programs that will help us nurture the businesses here. In Gwen McCall's shop over at Economic Development Corporation, we asked Gwen to say, listen, our job should be how do we make sure businesses that are here in Prince George's County are successful so they hire more people and they pay more taxes because we need your revenues. One of the areas that Prince George's County has lagged far behind is if you look at the commercial growth in our county compared to others, 70% of our resources come from residential property taxes. We have to change that dynamic, and the only way is to grow a lot of. It's not going to solely come from attracting businesses to the county. It's going to be from growing our small businesses up so that they start, paying more in commercial taxes and helping us and hiring more folks here. So we've got to do a better job at it. We want to hear from the businesses out there. We have to do a better job at taking risk. I'll close with this. One of the reasons that we have the $50 million EDI incentive fund was so the county could take risks in areas that commercial businesses would not. That we could start doing some of the things that you saw in the District of Columbia in the 80s when I worked there, and look where it's gone now. And so we're going to look at how we can do that, but actually start putting into practice those things. So you can help us by telling us, what the issues are, making sure that our folks come out there, keeping this in front of us. That's a great issue to advocate for because I'll end with this. Every year that I've run for office since 1994, everybody's for small business, like education. None of us know what the heck small business is or how we actually can solve the issues dealing with it because most of it is, how do I get work? And we've figured out how to say to you, we're going to help you get certified. But because you're certified doesn't mean there's a check coming that way or a contract or service. Or if you're just in the traditional things like bricks and mortars. How do we make sure we're building a brand new resort casino? Once it's built, the bricks and mortar is done. The real money is in the service. Who's supplying the flowers? Who's cleaning the laundry? Who's servicing the rental units there? Or all of that stuff is where the ongoing. Who's handling some of the money? What are those things that we can now make sure that we give opportunity to businesses that are in Prince George's County that have been struggling? And that's really our charge. But you can help us by keeping it in front of us. The charges we've made that I've made to both Gwen McCall at EDC and Monica Johnson at Central Services, where a lot of our stuff run through, and Roland Jones is really we should be seeking you out. You're a small business. Whatever capital you're using is to operate the business. You don't have a developer that goes out there fishing for funds. But we should actually be seeking you out and saying we're going to have within the next 4 years potentially $4 billion worth of construction and work going on in the county. That's more than any other place around the region. We shouldn't be waiting 4 years from now to say, hey, you got any work you can do over here? We should be talking to you now about how we
let you know about the opportunities, but also how we build capacity for you to take advantage of that. And that's on us. And so the charge that I would say is what we're going to do from these questions, and people who know me know this will happen, and that is I'm going to turn to our staff and say, why aren't we reaching out to these businesses here? What opportunities can we make sure that they know about that's coming down the pike in Prince George's County? And more importantly, how do we get them ready to take advantage of that? Because it doesn't do any good if you can't take advantage of it. Yes, I think there was a question here, and then Amy. Was there a question? Oh, question here? Right. Yeah. And we don't want you to do it. I mean, part of what we have to be smart about, and I agree with you, is how do we engage you to help us? Because quite honestly, we're in the day-to-day working in our jobs. So now we're not thinking about how we actually engage businesses here because we're busy solving the problems that I've given them that very day. What we have to do and what we can take back to staff is how do we get a dialogue like this with, Monica Johnson, with Roland Jones. I know that we've tasked him with going out and holding seminars, but it really should be discussions about here's what we're going to do, here's how we're going to do things differently, and that's the action plan that comes out of that. Because out of that should be here's what we need you to be doing in terms of this is what's happening in the county, here's what role we're playing in, and where can your business fit in? And so that conversation's got to go on right now. And so we'll make sure that we reach out to you to bring as many folks in that talk to us. Because the other thing that's going to happen is tomorrow the governor's going to announce transportation projects in Prince George's County. Well, anybody who knows anything about development means when they say transportation, that really is economic development. It's infrastructure. You can't do any development without infrastructure. So that means there is going to be opportunities. And so what we have to do is make sure that we got you on the front line. So I want to thank you for volunteering. And you just, yeah.
I did, absolutely.
That's right. So we got that, Christian, and everybody back. We're going to make sure that we get you to the right people in Carla's shop. And Barry Stanton is happy because he's got Glass Manor and Oxon Hill, and he's excited. We will, I mean, in all seriousness, the only way it changes is by your participation. Part of what we want you to do here is not just, helping us in ad hoc committees, but we've got commissions and committees that I have to legislatively and by charter fill. Well, we need to have, and we fill them with the same people. We need some newer folks here who are willing to give up some of their time and come help us, and serve on the redevelopment authority or the housing authority or the revenue authority or any number of these, committees that we're trying to put together. So we need your help in that. There was a question back.
Mm-hmm. It's happening slowly, Mr. Baker. I think there's an opportunity, though, to advance it more quickly. Jackie and I have started conversations about ways to connect these cohorts with volunteer opportunities. But I do think we need to sit down and really think through how we can be more strategic. I think the one-off relationship with Kendall is great. But we want to build a bridge so that the back and forth between us is ongoing and constant. And I think we have the opportunity to do that.
You know what would be good? Here's what we should do. Two things. One is, and I see Jackie holding up the T&I brochures, but we should have the cohorts actually sit down in a discussion with each one of our T&I leaders who all have access to every part of this government. Then the other part is we really should have the cohorts come in and sit down with various departments that you have an interest. So if you tell us, hey, I want to sit down with Gloria Brown and social services to find out what's going on. Because on first brush you say, well, I don't do social services. Well, they do social services a lot more than just going, social working. It's a lot that goes into it. Same thing with health. Same thing with, so having this cohort, and we're offering it to you in this government, that we will find the departments And you'll get a chance to chat with them in the cohorts that you set up about what's going on. And so that way we understand, the opportunities here, the new superintendent coming in. And what we're hoping that person who's going to be the new superintendent coming in will say to us is, I need the help of the government at large in order to address that need. Because the 0 to kindergarten is an area where we have to look at all of the resources of the county to help in, because the school system budget won't do it. What I can tell you that we will take a lead in for certain is in those 6 areas that we have in the county, because that's our greatest need right now. So we're going to deal from a government standpoint in those 6 areas. But the areas outside of those 6, we have to figure out how we partner with the county, the private sector, the nonprofit sector to offer services and education in a meaningful way in Prince George's County. So our residents don't have to go to the District of Columbia like my wife and I did. So this has happened for generations.